Thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com, home of technical analysis, education in both the stock market and cryptocurrency worlds. See the links in the description of this video for more information on our two courses, Entries and Exits on the Fundamentals of Technical Analysis, as well as our new course on Trading Cryptocurrency Strategy. Purchase both and receive a 20% off bundle discount. Thanks for checking us out. Let's get on to the technical analysis. Hey everyone, checking in on the big three and another really slow, boring day. Just kidding, you were all checking to see if you had the wrong video. Bulls are in full control of Bitcoin, huge breakout, and we are testing the all-time highs. We're looking up at 4,980 as the all-time high, and we just got up to 4,875, so $105 shy of an all-time high. And looking at this daily chart, we were anticipating on the consolidation a higher low to form. And in terms of the bullish follow-through, as soon as we did break that 44.70 level, I was explaining how that made me a lot more comfortable because we now had the higher high, and we know that any consolidation from that point, we'll be looking for another higher low to form to keep the uptrend intact. And really, a lot of other people were sharing that same sentiment as everybody's piling into Bitcoin. Perhaps a lot of people, I mean, at this point, the narrative that people are jumping in for this fork just doesn't make sense to me because it's not like we're racing to get in here. So we have a long way to go before that happens, you know, a couple weeks. And I don't think it's, I mean, sure, there's some relation to that, but I don't think that that is the reason that this is happening. I think that we have a really strong uptrend. I think that perhaps we'll get some news on China opening back up some Bitcoin exchanges with some licenses. That could have a reaction to it. But it's just increasing bull volume multiple days in a row. And the question now is, when do we get this all-time high? And in my opinion, it's not if we get this all-time high, it's when. 4-hour time frame beginning to consolidate. We are very overbought still, even with this consolidation. The 4-hour RSI is above 80. It's an indecision doji. It's an inside bar to be watching. And the 1-hour time frame, multiple inside bars to be watching. So if we do get a bear break, anything on the hourly above 46.30 is going to keep a higher low pattern intact. So the bulls have a lot of wiggle room because of the last 4 hours of extreme strength. We look at the 15-minute time frame. We were very overbought. We have our high, low of the pullback, lower high, higher low. The range right now of this equilibrium on the 15-minute is 47.90 support and 48.42 resistance. So a $52 range currently watching. You see the volume is dropping off. We are going to see a break of this range and a spike in volume within an hour on this 15-minute time frame, and that is going to dictate short-term direction. If we see a bull break, we'll be looking for a new all-time high in the next 24 hours. If we see a bear break, then that consolidation could play out for the next 24 hours for all we know. We'll have to be keeping an eye on volume and everything. But where we stand, the bulls are in full control, and they are looking for a new all-time high in the near-term future. Checking in on the other two names, and this is where watching these charts of Ethereum and Litecoin compared to Bitcoin comes in handy because we can see that we were at such extreme oversold levels. Looking at the 4-hour time frame of this chart, the RSI was under 20. When we were down at our lows, the RSI was almost in the single digits on the 4-hour time frame. So that tells us that we're going to see some relative strength compared to BTC in the near-term future with ETH and LTC. And we are seeing that oversold bounce play out right now, still oversold on the 4-hour time frame, and watching to see if we get a higher low and a higher high for a more significant bounce to play out. But what we were looking at is an inverse relationship where we're seeing the altcoin world is getting absolutely crushed, and we are seeing that ETH and LTC are as well, and that is resulting in a lot of people, or that is the result of a lot of people taking money out to try and get in on this Bitcoin move and trying to get in on this all-time high. So definitely watching the altcoin space, in my opinion, and I don't usually give fundamental analysis because obviously I'm not researching all of these coins and all of their white papers, but in my opinion, after watching different spaces have, like the MJ sector, I can keep coming back to this comparison where I watched it from 8 companies in the US MJ sector go from 8 companies to 300 in a couple years. And instantly, the funnel effect of money was gone, and the vast majority are scams and are never going to do anything and never going to profit and never going to be a good hold. So I'm not going to say the vast majority of coins are scams, but I'm going to say that the funnel effect of money is being diluted in terms of options that you can choose for who's going to be the next big thing, as well as the vast majority of these altcoins in 10 years, in my opinion, are not going to be a thing. So even less than that, the next 3 years, they're going to be forgotten. And I would be very comfortable saying 50% of the altcoins that we currently see. And I would probably even say more, but that's just me being conservative. And again, this is just my opinion going off, you know, watching other sectors have this kind of explosion in growth and popularity. And that's why I'm personally sticking to trading the big three mostly. And that's why I think that these big three are going to be surviving, whereas the altcoins, you know, it's very high risk, high reward, but you have to worry about the coins disappearing from the news and disappearing from hype. All of the altcoins are being run on hype and news. And if we do not see that happening, and if we do not see them progressing, then they just fade away and slowly dribble away into nothing. And that's when long-term holdings dribble away. And, you know, right now there's people with significant altcoin portfolios that are taking an absolute beating in this space. And that's why I personally prefer to be more agile with my money and more in and out of positions to protect that capital and prevent against shifts in the market, where the altcoin market is very clearly shifting to longer term bearish right now and in the midst of a big pullback. So ETH on the daily time frame just bounced right at a key support and actually just below it. But what we've noticed it with the altcoin world, and Litecoin just did it as well. Litecoin broke a key support by 10 cents and then saw a significant bounce. Ethereum broke this key support. I'm looking down at 286.44, and we just bounced off of 285.88. So that's a difference of 56 cents, which isn't a significant amount here. That's about 0.15%. So I'm considering that a base of support that is holding, especially because of the reaction we're seeing from it. A big long lower wick with bulls trying to buy this dip. And we're going to be watching to see where we close today, and if this is a bullish reversal hammer, where essentially we did see a higher high here where we had 312.75 and then 314.62 as the next resistance, but it's almost just a channel that we've been trading in here for the past 2.5 weeks, rejecting from resistance, bouncing off support, rejecting from resistance, bouncing off support. So this is the channel that I'm currently watching, and it would be 314.62 resistance and looking down at this 286.44 support. So watching to see if the bulls can turn things around. The 4-hour oversold bounce is underway. I personally played Ethereum and Litecoin on this oversold bounce. I took a half position in each because I knew how oversold both of them were, and I looked at the comparison. I looked and said, okay, who's stronger here, ETH or LTC? And I looked at this chart, and I saw it trading straight across, and now we're seeing a little bit of a favor into LTC comparatively, just the past few candlesticks, but it was tight enough to the point where I was saying, okay, I'm going to be looking for a position in both to see the bounce play out, and I'll get a piece of whoever the better bounces. So I was in Ethereum here, scaling in. Let's look at the 4-hour bounces underway, the hourly time frame. The RSI was down in the teens. We had a big bullish reversal hammer on a volume climax, a big time follow-through candlestick. There was definitely a market order that triggered here all the way up to 302, and we're trying to climb our way back there. But I made a bullish entry, and I'm still in my position where I was scaling in, and my average ended up at about 292. So looking in on the 15-minute time frame, most of my entry was right about here on this little bounce attempt, and then I held off. When I saw this bearish candlestick form, I held off on the rest of my entry and then scaled in on the way down here, as I was confident that I would just have to be patient and wait for this oversold bounce to play out. So I am in a position right now and very comfortable. I'm going to be holding it and looking to see if this 4-hour time frame can start to see some higher lows and higher highs and change this momentum around now that we have bounced off this daily support. And you can see that support right there holding. So I'm going to be holding Ethereum, and the reason I'm holding it and not locking in these really nice short-term gains is because I already did that with LTC. So LTC is much more significantly bearish on the daily time frame. We have a clear lower high, lower low pattern, a clear bear break, where 50.25 was the key support, and we very significantly dropped below that level to 48.15, pulling back about 4% below it. So we're seeing the same oversold bounce. The 4-hour time frame, RSI got oversold, a big long lower wick, trying to see follow through and confirmation. The hourly time frame, RSI dipped way down. Volume climaxes signaled right down there at the bottom. The hourly RSI, when we were down at the lows, was down here in the 14-13 range, and it was the lowest that we have seen on the hourly time frame in recent memory, including the last brutal drop where we were down here at the same levels back in mid-September. So I made my entry on Litecoin scaling in on the way down, and I was comfortable with my position in the $48 range. So I had an average of roughly 49, and again, GDAX needs to get their act together, which they will, but they need to tell us our average positions when we're scaling in. For me to have to do this rough math and have only a rough idea of what my average is just silly. So I don't know what my exact average was on Litecoin as I entered. I scaled in about 4 or 5 positions on the way down, and I gave myself a rough average at about 49, but in reality, it was probably the upper $48 range. And I sold on this spike right here. And why I sold on that spike is the 5-minute. And look at how significant that bounce was. So the fact that we saw a bounce from the lows from oversold conditions and the RSI hit 70 15 minutes later on the 5-minute time frame, that tells me take that profit, because we are very likely to see pullback and just normal healthy consolidation from that move. So I ended up taking $1.60 in profit, and I did make a re-entry on this consolidation in the upper $49 range, but I sold it about break even. I didn't like where it was bouncing around, and I knew we were forming an equilibrium pattern, and I wanted to pay attention to my Ethereum position, and I'm also about to be heading out, so don't want to be overweight in terms of things that I'm needing to manage. But we did just make a bull break here on Litecoin, where we had this equilibrium pattern of our high of the bounce, low of the pullback, lower high, higher low, sideways trading. This candlestick right here, not a very clear bull break, but it's enough of a bull break over the last 25 minutes that shifts our odds. So technical analysis is not about knowing what's going to happen. It's about getting the percentage in our heads, so to speak, of what's more likely to happen. As soon as I saw this candlestick from this tight range, that tells me we are more likely than not to see a bull break from this equilibrium pattern. So here we are breaking bullish, getting over 50.45 and looking up at resistance of 50.94. So just to get some specific levels, we're going to look at the 15-minute time frame, where Litecoin support is 49.66 to try and keep higher lows, and resistance is 50.94 and 51.04. In terms of Ethereum on the 15-minute time frame, I am looking at support of 292.31. The bulls are trying to form a higher low right now, 296.83 currently. We'll see if the bulls can hold that. Resistance is 302.05, followed by 305.01. And let's look at Bitcoin one more time to get some key levels there. 15-minute time frame, key resistance, 48.42, and that support again, 47.90. So that's where we stand. Bitcoin, all-time highs in reach, and Ethereum and Litecoin oversold bounces are underway. Would be really comfortable with an Ethereum oversold bounce if we can form a higher low and a higher high on the 4-hour time frame and see this bounce recovery last a bit more prolonged. And really, on the hourly time frame, we need a higher low. We haven't consolidated on this hourly time frame yet, so we'll be looking for a pullback into the mid 290s, a higher low to form, and then a higher high to see this bullish MACD cross follow through, and to try and see the price back in the low $300 range. So that's where we stand heading into tomorrow, or heading into tonight, overnight, and we will be watching the correlation as always. Bitcoin and the altcoin ETH LTC correlation is very important these days, and it has been shifting significantly. So thanks again. I hope you have a great night, and we will continue to check back in.